So my name's Mary Rajk, and I majored in environmental science with a concentration in marine science and environmental education. I graduated, what was it? 5 years ago, I guess. Yes, spring 2016.
Okay, what made you want to major in ocean biology?
I always loved the ocean and animals. For the longest time, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian for like a
Mhm.
really long time. And then in high school, when I started kind of really focusing on what I wanted to do and what I wanted to study, I realized that the impact I wanted to make was much bigger than that. It wasn't just specific animal care, but kind of teaching people and like sharing this passion.
Mhm.
And that was interesting because I went into my undergrad like not quite knowing that about myself yet. Like I knew I was going to do environmental science or environmental and marine science. And I I think after like my first year, after like all the basic lab classes, I was like, I can't sit in a lab all day. That's just not for me. And I found a bunch of like outdoor education classes and programs and volunteer opportunities. And I just loved sharing the environment and the love for it with people. And then that kind of turned into like advocacy for the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say too, what I love about it is I think it like grounds people. Like there's something that's so vast and big about it that like when you go to the ocean, it like almost brings you back to earth and kind of to a simple place. Um, and I am someone who like I love to be in the water, like just the feeling of that and the connection. And it's so big and unknown. It's almost like that mystery and all that is really what's always drawn me to the ocean.
That's so cool because I feel the same way. I
Yeah.
I
No, that's
love
what
how big it is and like how mysterious it is and stuff.
in the times that I lived at the beach. So when I was in North Carolina, I actually lived in the beach town, like
Hmm.
a block away from the ocean. I was like, I never in my life thought that I would be doing that. And then I was in New Jersey for a few years and I would make it a point, especially when I was in college. I walked on the beach every day just to stand there because I
Hmm.
just wanted to like be there.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't about laying out or like doing an activity. It was just like having that connection. And I think there are people out there like you that they just are connected to it.
Hmm. Have you changed any of your behaviors for after learning more about ocean pollution and the harm it caused to our planet?
Oh my gosh. I've changed so many habits and it's amazing looking like over time. Just like the other day, my cousin was texting me like about certain products, like, is this worth it? Because like I've become that person.
Hmm.
like, let me think. I'd say one, like, I think the plastics, just being aware of your plastic consumption is a
Hmm.
big thing. It's not just about like recycling it, but like realizing like how much we're using like in packaging and stuff like that. Um, so like I've done things like I use a biodegradable bar shampoo.
Ooh.
The brand it's called Ethique. You can get it on Amazon, which I know that's a whole other thing, but I started that because it's amazing when you think about like when you buy a bottle of shampoo, how much of that is like water in plastic, whereas you can get the concentrated bar and it comes in a biodegradable packaging and everything. So they do it, start to finish. So like alternative products and like cleaning products so that there's less runoff of harsher chemicals. So focusing on non-toxic chemicals, reducing the plastic waste because so much that ends up in the ocean isn't from people sitting at the ocean and leaving trash. It's from a garbage truck that's overflowed and bins being thrown down. Like I've seen in my neighborhood, like on recycling day or something, right? Like people put their bins out, but then they knock over and blow over and then they're in the
Yeah.
drainage system. So just realizing like even after I put it in the bin, I can't be in control. So what can I do before it goes in the bin? So reducing the plastic stuff, Like I don't use like Ziploc bags, like things like that, like little things that took time to replace. A big change that I've made in the past like couple years is avoiding fast fashion. So I started learning more about microfibers in the ocean and how, when we're doing laundry, how much microfibers, and if it's synthetic material, it's plastic, it's microplastics. So that's like a huge effort I've made for myself, is trying to like thrift more, borrow more. I'm 27. I've got a ton of friends getting married. So I'll rent dresses for the events and things like that, just to reduce like my overall consumption.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah. But like I said, like that's probably been, I mean, that's like I'd say 10-year journey, like since I started college and was doing things independently. But it's not necessarily easy. And I think the best advice I was given was actually when I was in high school. It was my AP environmental teacher. And she said, like, you can't do everything. You'll go crazy trying to like fix yourself. So you have to do it like step by step. And it's okay to have like your thing. Like if you really love makeup and nails and hair, like enjoy that, but maybe don't eat meat to offset it. Like that kind of balance in life of like, people who get passionate about it, we drive ourselves crazy trying to be like perfect. So yeah, those changes have been, like I said, over probably 10 years of just trying to be conscientious. I even use like I think it's called a coral ball, I think is the brand. And you put it in the wash and it collects all those microfibers so that they don't go into the ocean. Yeah.
So is it actually made out of coral? Because that's really cool.
It's not. I think that's just the name of it, if I have the name right. But no, it's not made out of coral. But that's another thing, like sunscreen, that's not a plastic problem. But I use better quality, more expensive sunscreen, but it's like biodegradable, because that's a huge problem. Like what we're putting into the ocean just in that way.
I actually, in environmental science, just realized that not all plastics can be recycled. And it was kind of an eye-opener for me. I've recycled so many like plastic that wrap stuff around.
Like cling wrap or like packaging, like any like plastic like this. Yeah. And
I just realized you can't recycle that. And I'm like shocked, because what are we going to do with all this if we can't?
And the sad thing is, some of it you can, like they can from a chemical and physical standpoint recycle it, but it's recycling is a lot of it's based on weight when they're collecting it and processing. So that's why styrofoam and that lighter stuff doesn't get recycled, because it's not as cost effective to recycle it. I know, and these are like an effort, like I don't even realize, but you brought it up in Denver. So I'm a Denver resident. Over on the Cherry Creek, there's a recycling center, and you can actually drop off plastic there, the plastic wrappings. So we like keep, like, especially like if we get like a big packaging of like toilet paper, right? Like all those layers of plastic, and we just keep it in our basement and fill the bag until we're full. And then we take it there. But that takes effort, like a conscious effort. And it's not accessible. Like, I mean, if you don't have your own car or a Saturday off to do it, like you can't do that.
Yeah. We also recycle. We don't recycle the wrapping. We recycle like the plastic containers and bottles and stuff. And then my dad drops it off at the recycling center. So
yeah, because even like here, they don't recycle. And that's crazy to me, because I worked in Maryland. That's where I'm originally from. And like in the classrooms, they had trash, paper recycling, and plastic recycling in every classroom, in every school I worked in.
Yeah, here they don't do much recycling at all. What do you think the biggest issue don't have recycling bins, and my schools don't have recycling bins unless the teachers put them out themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think overall it's crazy. It's our production of goods. And I lived when I was in college, the town I lived in, like I didn't pick up recycling. Fashion, and as college students, we had bins on and like the overproduction of goods that these companies are able to, because it was all separated. And I think it really goes to, and then they can have excess. Like I grew up in an area business that with excess goods. Weirdly enough, when I was in college, we were studying how they started their waste management program, because it was so successful. So I grew up being more, and people always saying like, "Oh, I need a full." We always had a plastic and a cardboard and trash, pick up hundreds of articles, and I didn't know any different until I moved somewhere else and realized, but I try and be more mindful. Like I don't need to wear. Even people who want to make a difference or interview, there's a lot of challenges to make those changes. So I really think it comes back to the overconsumption that we've become accustomed to an overproduction of goods, because that's what comes back to like, you know, what I said, like the recycling, like there's so much that even when you put it in the bin and you care, like, you know, it gets thrown away, or a recycling center can't even process enough because we're producing so much. And then I think the other side of it is the awareness, because especially, and I don't know your experience, like being in Colorado, and most people here, you know, are pretty aware, but you would think like in rural parts, like if someone's never been to the ocean or doesn't have that connection, they're
Yeah.
not going to realize that the fertilizer they're using in their yard is going to end up in the ocean one day.
Yeah.
And it is shocking. Like I said, I worked at that marine science camp in New Jersey, and it was a nice quality camp. I mean, families had to be well off to go to it. And, you know, we would be doing these lessons for kids. Our camps ranged from either K through fifth or the middle school range. And even the elementary kids, they would be teaching their parents. Parents would come in and be like, we want to come to camp and learn. And I'm like, yes, come, I'll teach you. Like, you know, we send home a newsletter every day with what the kids learned. And it wasn't just a matter of for the reinforcement on the kids, it was to have the conversations at home, so that other people are learning about our impact on the environment, and especially on oceans, and how we are all connected to these big oceans.
So what specifically did you learn about ocean pollution in college?
Let me think. I mean, I took a couple different classes, and actually, while I was in college, my university started developing a plastic research lab. So that was like very cool. Like I didn't work in it, but I had some friends and peers that did. Um, I think the biggest thing about ocean pollution that I learned that's like made an impact on me is um, how much is out there and how
Mhm.
long it's been out there.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that a lot of people don't realize is, and this is just almost like a fun fact of understanding, that a lot of the plastics, they break down because they're floating on the surface of the water. So it's the
Mhm.
sun that breaks them down into these smaller pieces. And so if we like, it's almost unimaginable how many microplastics are out there,
Yeah.
because there we see these big garbage patches and we're thinking, but if the sun's breaking them down, it's like, I think the last thing I heard was like there's more pieces of plastic than fish in the ocean now, and that's
Yeah, heard that. That's
heartbreaking. And it's like we've only brought this to light in like the past, you know, 10 or 20 years, but we've been dumping plastic for a long time. And so I
yeah.
think that's the thing that's always stuck with me is like how deep this problem, like physically it is deep in the
Mhm.
ocean, but how deep it is in our society, and to correct it is going to take a lot of changes and a lot of awareness.
Yeah. What do you know about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch?
Which, well, yeah, I actually know a good bit about them. I mean, I know about them. I had a peer and a colleague that she worked for an organization called Five Gyres. Have you heard of that before? So Five Gyres is actually an organization that specifically addresses the needs of the five different ocean patches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the one thing that I think I learned about it, like I always imagined it as like, because you see pictures and it looks like it's just this blob of like everything's tangled up. But then when you see footage of it, it's just like its own environment, almost like the plastic's floating. It's not tangled up in each other. It might be tangled up in like sargassum and like different seaweeds and kelps. But
Mm-hmm.
this stuff is, it's just like kind of a floating amorphous blob. Like it's not connected. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like you imagine
Yeah.
it as like everything's stuck together, but it really can spread and things can come into it and out. and they are their own living ecosystems now, like these own smaller ecosystems, because animals and different creatures have lived in them. Like I've done so many cleanups where I pick up a bucket and there's hermit crabs in there. So you know what I mean? So understanding that if we just remove all those things, what are we removing from the environment that's important? Because now those creatures and critters have found homes and an environment within this plastic patch, which is just a weird concept. Like if you look into like some footage of it, it's really interesting to see how these animals interact with the plastic, because they are cohabitating in a way. Obviously we know it's harmful, but they are living among it. And if we take all of it out, what sea creatures and microbes are we pulling out of the ocean that need to be there? Because those patches are huge. So yeah, I'd say those are the biggest things, that they're constantly moving and changing, but that they're these own little micro environments there.
So part of my Girl Scout Gold Award project is I started a Litterati challenge. Litterati is an app where you go up and take photos of trash.
Oh yeah.
And then you can have challenges where you can say, I want to pick up 100 pieces by the end of this month, and other people can help and join. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'll have to look up your app, because that's really cool. And I know I have friends who I could share it with, and they'd be like so excited about like challenges of like picking up trash.
And I actually have a challenge for, I want to pick up 10,000 pieces by August 1st.
Wow.
Hey guys, I want to tell you a little bit about my Litterati challenge. I actually started it last video, and since then we have picked up 741 pieces. Yay! At the end of my challenge, I'm going to have a prize for the person that picked up the most trash. Currently in first place, we have Mr. Ron Rossett with 345 pieces. If you want to join the challenge, the code is 432286.
I used to be a huge fan of the game Pokemon Go, where I'd love to go outside and walk around and play on my phone. And now I haven't touched Pokemon Go in a while because I'm too busy taking photos of trash, because this is just as fun. It makes picking up trash fun.
Yeah. It's so funny. I think back to just in this conversation, I think it was 6th grade. We had to do like a service project of some sort. My friend and I remember like picking up trash and sorting it and taking pictures and all this stuff. And it's starting those habits young and instilling them, like sharing it with your friend is just a casual thing rather than like a chore or something you have to fix, makes such a difference in people's perspective on these issues. And that's something huge that I've learned, especially in working with kids and like teaching environmental education, that people have to care first. Like you can't just make them care about the problem. Like they have to like, oh, I want to clean up my neighborhood because it's my neighborhood. Oh, and then it helps the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that's like a really big guiding principle of any sort of like environmental education or marine science education, because there is such a panic of what are we going to do? Like there's sometimes I was in class in college where I'm like, the world is going to end. Like I'm never going to be able to fix it. Like I'm trying to help. But if you spend too much time in that area, you're just like dwelling. But if you teach people how to care for it, how to connect themselves with the environment, they will pick up trash. They will join a challenge. They will be more mindful of the fertilizer they use if they learn that, oh, it's going straight into the ocean when it all runs off or something like that.
Yeah. So thank you for allowing me to interview you today.
Yeah. I loved like when I saw that you were interested in ocean science, like I was so excited because obviously I've moved to Colorado and it's not near an ocean. But I would love to eventually someday be teaching marine science in Colorado. Yeah. Like I work in the special ed program here, but I'm getting my teaching license for science. And that's like, I'm like, I would love to bring kids from Colorado to the ocean and let them experience it. Cause that's what makes people care if they can connect to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that you're doing this. This is so exciting.
So thank you. Bye.
Yeah, okay, bye.